Hello everyone and welcome to another video. On August the 12th, The Hollywood Reporter ran an article that talked about how the Rings of Power showrunners took issue at a reporter that stated the Rings of Power is loosely, vaguely based on Tolkien's work. And, of course, we are going to talk about it because it has a lot to do with what we have seen recently in the promotion for this show. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. In the article, the showrunners took issue when a critic suggested that the series is not deeply rooted in Tolkien's work, so they decided to lash out about it, along other things also, like the show's comparison to the Game of Thrones franchise as well. And of course, what they had to say says a lot about how they are trying to justify in any way possible the situation in which they find themselves by creating this show. The situation happened during the annual press tour of the Television Critics Association, and in it they drew comparison between The Rings of Power and Game of Thrones, specifically House of the Dragon, also because it's getting released this year as well, and actually this month, and also with the fact that it seems like the show is not really deeply rooted in what Tolkien wrote. And of course, Patrick McKay responded. He responded to what sounded like criticism with, quote, "I just sort of want to quibble with the vaguely connected. We don't feel that way. We feel like deep roots of this show are in the books and in Tolkien. And if we didn't feel that way, we'd all be terrified to sit up here. We feel that this story isn't ours. It's a story we're stewarding that was here before us. And if that is the case, why are you not adapting any of the material that is actually there? Because in other interviews and in other panels and discussions, you have mentioned how you felt like you had license to do whatever you wanted because Tolkien never wrote this, or because Tolkien never said that, or because in, for example, the panel at San Diego Comic-Con, Tolkien never talked about Harfoots in the Second Age, so we felt that we had a license to tell that story. Your own words. So if these are stories that have always been there and that are important, why are you not adapting them? Why are you doing something entirely different with that world, with that universe? It doesn't really make sense. It's contradicting exactly what you are saying here right now. McKay also said that they don't feel vaguely connected, that they feel deeply, deeply connected, and that they strive every day to be even more connected. And that's how they feel about the whole thing. So let me ask you something. How do you connect with something if you change it entirely? For me, it seems like you are not connecting at all. I mean, why would you find amusing or necessary to change something that you want to contact with, to click with? In my opinion, if you really feel that deeply rooted and that deeply connected to something, then you strive to respect it and give it its proper worth. In this case, the Peter Jackson movies are a better adaptation because they are deeply rooted in the themes that Tolkien talked about in his works. In this case, with Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne, I just feel like they are teasing people, you know. They are making fun of people. And maybe this is just another damage control, because maybe they were not expecting that someone will tell them, well, it's vaguely inspired, right, vaguely based on Tolkien, and they would be like, no, of course not. It is something that we have worked for really hard to have deeply connected, because they know that they don't have the favor of the audience. Because they know that the fans, Tolkien fans, don't like what they are seeing so far and what they have been presented with, and they don't feel like there's any real deep connection. Once again, I point out to the fact that this show looks cheap, of course, but also soulless. It doesn't feel like this is something done out of love or respect or even for artistic purposes. It's just a cash grab, and I think that it's evident. I reckon that when you've got a property and you just try to milk it for all that it's got, it's evident in the work because it's soulless. It lacks that feeling of intention. And Patrick McKay and JD Payne and everyone involved in this thing can feel however they want to feel, but that does not make it a fact. That does not imply that this is real. The reality is otherwise different, and we can see that that connection they are trying to talk about here is not really there. So, however you feel, guys, it doesn't really matter if you do not really show it, and not even in interviews or in panels and discussions, but with the work that we see every day, with how you respect the characters, with how you respect the ideals behind the complete work. And so far we have not seen that. And every time that we have a new clip, a new interview, a new cast member talking about this, we see this lack of commitment to the original material, and we also see the terrible work that is being done to this piece of work that is timeless otherwise, and also quite important to a lot of people. That's why it's got lots of fans. So if you are trying to run damage control, or you are trying to market this as a deeply rooted Tolkien work, you are doing it all wrong, because it doesn't really look like it. But let me know your opinion down below in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. See you next time.